Hello, everybody. My name is Joseph, and I have something terrible to admit. I don't like any of the Sonic cartoons. It's true. None of them have even come close to be my favorite. It's so odd because theoretically, you're practically making gold with a world like Sonic's, but for whatever reason, none succeed. Why? Well, I'll tell you. This is Sonic Cartoons.
You suck!
We start off with the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, where a blue hedgehog by the name of Sonic, who is sometimes accompanied by a fox with two tails named Tails, is being chased around by Robotnik, or one of his robots like Scratch, Grounder, and Coconut. It's not always like this, but it's usually the formula. Comparison to the Wile E. Coyote sort aside, it's actually a good idea. Not what I would go with for a Sonic cartoon, but a good idea nonetheless. The problem is that while Looney Tunes is smart with its cartoon logic and clever jokes, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is a bunch of random, nonsensical gibberish with a painfully dull humor that never stops and it just keeps going. It's like if it isn't being over the top, it will lose the attention of kids. Oh god, I'm still feeling hurt. Okay, so aside from being white noise for stupid kids, what else did the show have? Well, I guess the memes that came from the show, from Pingus to the bullying PSA, we'll get to those later. This face and the amount of questionable that made you wonder if the writers accidentally slipped in their fetishes. There's also the PSA, which informed kids on the danger of climbing into a washing machine, being touched without permission, smoking, drinking so far, and so forth. Honestly, these straight up don't fit in this kind of show. They should have been given to Sonic Side AM. Part of the reason this cartoon has memes is because of its awful animation. These looked rust, sloppy, and these are so rough, it's almost like if a child did this with the amount of incoherent doodles going on. I already mentioned the random nature of the show, but the writing isn't that stellar either. You can tell they were trying to make Sonic that cool kid, that cool character you would look up to, and I guess it's fitting for the time, seeing as how that's how he was when he started. But man, in this show, not only does it come across as how do you do, fellow kids, but they also forgot to give the other characters personality. The only one I really like that is either bland or straight up annoying is whoops, Robotnik. But even then, I think that may only be because of the memes. So yeah, unfortunately, this show is awful, and no amount of pingers is enough for me to go back and watch it all over again. But several months later came what some people consider the best Sonic cartoon. That's Sonic Stadium, and personally, I don't see it. I may even say it's overrated. Alright. Sure, it may have solo environmental messages, a badass villain, and enjoyable characters, but personally, I find watching the episodes to be quite a drag. What I mean is, its episodes can go all over the place, whether they are awesome or not. Sometimes a bore or even straight up painful. Usually it's just a bore with riveting episodes like the first episode, Heads or Tails. Why does it take so long for Sonic and Tails to go to Metropolis? Sorry, I needed to get that out of me. But I get that they needed to introduce the characters, but they dwell on that way too long, and there's a lot more of that spread around. Which sucks because when they do have Eggman, he's a great villain. Dare I say, he's the most threatening I've ever seen him portrayed. And part of that is thanks to Jim Cummings, check out his podcast, who does an absolute stellar job, always stealing the spotlight. But aside from that, this show has some really bad pacing that ruins it for me, and is the elephant in the room. Not even the interesting story can save it if it means putting up with such an atrocious pacing. Sonic Stadium, unfortunately, isn't the fastest thing alive. A couple of years later in Japan came an OVA simply titled Sonic the Hedgehog. It's weird, so let's talk about it. The story follows Dr. Robotnik, who holds the president and his daughter hostage. To save them, Sonic must travel to Eggman Land, a city controlled by Robotnik. Why not call it Robotnik Land?
It makes sense.
To deactivate a dangerous generator before it reaches critical mass. But no surprise, it was a trick. To get information ready for Metal Sonic, and so along with the help of Tails and Knuckles, they must face off against not only Robotnik, but also a Metal Sonic. So I'm going to ask something that's always bugged me ever since I first saw it. Why are Sonic's legs the size of a Subway footlog? Seriously, they look really distracting. Not only do they look really distracting in the action scenes, but they also look distracting when he's just standing around. Well, anyway, this is it for newbies. It does such a bad job explaining to newcomers who these characters and their world are, it makes the Edgeworld fan movie blush. At least try for them, guys. Let's also mention the president's daughter, who for some reason has Son Goku's tail and is as annoying as Amy Rose. So much so you just want to use a cheese grater against your ears to experience a more pleasant sound? Or how about the president? Wait, he doesn't do much aside from being kidnapped and be held hostage. Well, what about Old Man Owl?
Don't worry about it. He was here last night. He forced me to put on these clothes and...
In fact, can I ask why can Sonic and Hyper Metal Sonic feel the same thing from one another? That's stupid, strange, and highly illogical. I guess the animation is colorful and charming, but this doesn't feel like Sonic. Far from it. And the grating voices from the voice acting especially doesn't help. In fact, this is about as OVA as you can get, which is why you're not really missing much out of this one by simply skipping it.
might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you, since I know everything you're going to do! Strange, isn't it?
This is embarrassing for me to admit, but the next cartoon I have as much connection to as the movie. Because it's my first Sonic cartoon, and that is Sonic Underground. Oh boy. The last of the D cartoons, and the worst one. Oh Lord and Savior, why? I can at least see why people like Sadayam, even if I don't personally agree, but with this, no! Sonic and two other Donut Steel OC characters who have royal hairs but were separated from their mother, Queen Alina, after Dr. Robotnik's evil takeover of Mobius. Already that sounds stupid, but trust me, it gets worse. Unlike the other Sonic cartoons, this one has a bunch of moments where they stop for a cheaply made, awful song. And this happens constantly in this stupid show. Oh, and if you thought the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog look wonky, then this is what a crack addict animated in his sleep. The proportions, the facial expression, the perspective. Everything so beautifully wrong that there's nothing else like it. How about the characters? Well, they are all about as interesting as Mud, Moiro Oyo, and even Sandpaper. Honestly, I have no idea why Knuckles is here. They could have just as easily made an entirely new character. So there's no other way to put it. This show is really bad to the extreme. After Deke thankfully stopped making these, Japan tried their hand at a Sonic anime, simply known as Sonic X. Sonic is a fast blue hedgehog who lives on the planet Mobius. When a powerful explosion sends him and his friends to Earth, they discover a world full of new adventures and challenges. And Dr. Eggman follows them to Earth with the intent on capturing Sonic and harnessing his power for his own evil plans. Together with Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and others, Sonic must protect Earth and defeat Dr. Eggman, while encountering new enemies, new friends, and learn about the mysteries of the Chaos Emeralds, powerful artifacts that can grant incredible abilities. I know a lot of people don't like Chris, but for me it's not that he's annoying, actually just a little. But it's more than that. How about the fact that despite being alone, he not only already has friends, but he sees other hired people since my boy is rich. Spoiled brat. But what about Sonic? Sonic? Who's that? It's like the Knuckles show, being about Wade starring Knuckles. Sonic is either doing his own stuff or napping. He doesn't really get involved unless there's trouble, which is not a good thing when the anime is called Sonic X. While I like the style, the animation, I feel, is the complete opposite. It's full of errors like in Sonic Underground, but it is really choppy. I love TMS, but I really want to know what the heck happened. You want to know the worst part? It only gets moderately decent by the third season, but even that has its own set of issues. Overall, Sonic X is a dud and probably the reason we only have one Sonic anime. Two if counting the movie. but I personally don't count it. Even though it took 11 years to get another Sonic cartoon, it ended up being Sonic Boom. Now this is the second I watched in full growing up. Although I only saw bits of Sonic X on YouTube, so I don't think that counts. But this is the one where the only clips you'll see are the jokes, which are funny, but the reason there isn't a clip from the show itself is because the show is boring. Even more so than Sad AM. Not much of anything happens in this show. I guess the characters are more fleshed out. Styx is a fun new addition to the crew, but other than that, there's not much to this one. The episode themes are not that interesting. It's really hard for me to describe a boring cartoon because there's really not much to say about them without repeating yourself. That's Sonic Boom in a nutshell. 8 years later came the final Sonic cartoon, Sonic Prime. Man, I remember when I did my first video on it way back when. But to be honest, I still like the first season. Yeah, it's glaringly targeted at a younger audience, but the characters were still endearing, and the world they set up was really interesting. The voice cast is solid, and the animation is expressive and bouncy. The second season is where things start to get better, with Shadow helping Sonic to restore and undo the damage, and you get to see more of the Shadowverse. Hey, that doesn't sound so bad. How long until they ruin it? Oh boy. First of all, the writing is at its absolute worst, obviously being obvious to who it's meant to be for. In this case, targeting kids while then targeting families, which isn't a good thing as both cartoons like Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, and even the Sonic games themselves, are meant to be enjoyed by everyone, which just makes it all the more baffling why they insisted on this direction for a Sonic cartoon. Events also feel really stretched out. You can argue that it's been a feeling since season 2, but here they don't even attempt to hide it, and it is nauseatingly painful. In fact, this season had been overstuffed with nothing but fights, and it gets boring and repetitive after a while. Alright, you want to know what all of that was building up to? Just watch.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, team, we gotta go fast!
I'm not angry with Sonic Prime, I'm just really disappointed. And that goes for all the Sonic cartoons as well. It may seem like I'm hard to please, but I'm not. I just want a Sonic cartoon like Sonic Mania Adventures and Team Sonic Racing Overdrive. That's all. Sure, I'd also like it to be game accurate, but for the most part, I'd like it to be light-hearted, whimsy fun. That's a Sonic cartoon I'd watch. This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and I'm already ready for the huge nuclear meltdown of hate I'm about to get. Bye.
You might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you, since I know everything you're going to do!
That new saddle so better be worth it.
If that's the case, despite all that's passed between us,
Oh wow,
he
it's
saved
really
the
good.
world from Black Doom. He should have